you're thinking about it as well. It's also not It's also not postmodern because people can visualise it, and it's also, as you say, it's also naturally funny. So you can, of course, sit in Edinburgh if you like and try and command the British Army. So either you are, if you like, a sort of mad ranter on the statue of Prince Frederick, which of course is now blocked off, unfortunately, by the Ring of Steel and the postmodernist flag. So that, of course, is now in the database, and the analysis history is there. But again, you can surround Birmingham with physical assets. So Edinburgh, of course, has sort of cannons lying about. You go up to the hill, there is a cannon there. So you surround Birmingham with the British Army's heavy artillery. So this is a celebration of the Air Force. If you want to celebrate the Air Force, Edinburgh is a pretty good place to do it. I mean, look at the beautiful roiling skies of the city. Looking up is a pretty good way to give yourself a national anthem present. But if you surround Birmingham, this sort of grey, revolting, misery, doom-laden place with the heaviest artillery that the British can find, then in historic terms it's appropriate, and it would make the British happier. Can you imagine how happy it would make us to wake up tomorrow and find that to be the case? Can you imagine how happy it would make the Americans or the French? And it gives us backbone as well, so we can say, okay, well, a section of the British would do it, my colleagues will find it funny and do find it funny, and we can do it. Why not? Why not? It's our army. So, Parvini is wrong. So you can't start from first principles, otherwise you'd have to be a postmodernist. You would start to say, well, I'm a blob floating in space, I'm nothing from nowhere, I have no allegiance to no one, therefore I am nothing. But because you've grown as sort of a monkey out of somewhere, and of course you can feel it in your bones, it's come from this kind of place, you feel at home in the natural environment, it's quite cold, it's quite pleasant, you feel at home in the cold, the dark and the mist, that kind of thing. But again, about Spengler, doesn't it? He's wrong in the first 60 pages. Yes, of course, this solves none of our problems. So what has solved our problem? Okay, well, the refined ethical system, but the plot is just one run butter, is it? Defer to no man, defer to the history of it, and it's your peers looking at you saying, well, okay, well, fundamentally you're looking up, aren't you? You're not doing a personal gain. Otherwise, if you did, you would lose your power anyway, in a Platonist sense. So, okay, well, we'll just follow it. So again, you make the logical statement. What benefits does the country have in the current historic sense? Either Charles's son gets more serious than I am, or petition the king, come and get your head off. And ask him what he says in a Capuchin-like fashion. Parvini can do this, it's funny, so we can teach the trivium, we can hide in a catacombs Christian university teaching the trivium, or we can use the levers of state which still exist, or we can show to people they don't exist, and they're run by Crenshaw. There are things you can do pragmatically and do philosophy in a practical, physical sense. Be a doer, not just a talker, right? You are rooted in soil and stones. It's the two, the base and the hardness. You have to have the contrast. But because of the way England's worked and the history of it, it's always the same, isn't it? An invasion comes from the south. In this case, it's historically pretty bad, but it's come by air as well, and we're landlocked. We've been sort of caught off guard, and because of the technology. But it's easy to reverse, isn't it? It's not exactly hard. We can do it. It's just getting the will and making a constitutional case via the technology is your department. You're a sort of media guy, and we've got plenty of media guys. There's no shortage of them. But it's making a convincing argument that you can stretch time. You can laugh at it all you like, but you can say, well, here's your demarcation point, this has been bad, and there's any bad decision, you can hit rock bottom, can't you? Well, I'm going to improve my life from this point, or we'll improve our lives from the 1800s. We weren't paying attention, okay, well, we tried as best we can, but Burke wasn't sufficient. We're rooted in the Enlightenment blast, so you look up, but we're not deferring to the Bishop of Rome if he's not going to deal with the problem. So if we can have border security police, Home Office reform, and then we can rest easy. So in our environment, the sort of people here are tourists. They're here to contribute or whatever it may be, and we know we have border security effectively, and then we've got Northern Passage, oil, nuclear power, nuclear deterrent, that kind of stuff. Defence for the British, we've got home defence, the armed British men, arms line society, applied society, that kind of thing, and sort of go back to how it was effectively, not that long ago. But again, if you live to 2020, just physically got out of Birmingham, it's always darkest before the dawn anyway. You can think back to listening to Boney and Cotton and all those cretins with, in my case, no way physically out of the city. I physically couldn't leave. Now, 6 years on, we can physically get away in a misery-like sense, but we'll come back to my colleagues. It may be a multi-generation project to take the city, but we'll do it. We'll do it. It's not a problem. The British can retake cities, I assure you. But it's just getting serious. So we've been goofing off. Times are good. Lovely technology, lovely bits of plastic. Life is easy. Tappy, give me meat. Life is good. But given the state of the place, a lot of these people, you wouldn't want to raise your children there. They're working towns, that kind of place. But the reality of raising a family is just not particularly pleasant. And the British deserve better. You think how much we contribute towards human civilization. Some of the predation that happens in Birmingham is just not acceptable, and it's going to be stopped in a white collar sense. When we get a proper transfer of power. But power is legitimate, so if part of anyone wants to come back to the car park and have an organic conversation around peers is welcome too. But it really is British peer networking, so you can't beat sort of natural pathos, but it is like sort of I don't know, historic Orania, isn't this? Orania are saying, well, we don't want to be predated upon, sorry, we don't actually want to be attacked any further, we don't actually owe you anything. It's quite clear the relationship has been broken down, please leave us alone. The world can keep attacking them if it likes, but it's clearly unfair. And in Ireland, people get stabbed to death in the streets. Clearly the residents of Belfast are entirely entitled to defend themselves, and if some supranational body is trying to impose martial law on them, well, they will have my support to get the control away from them, and they can get control of Ireland. But the Northern Ireland bit is just to relax. So Catholics again inherit the tradition of Christendom, but the Pope, I'm afraid, is a waste of space. The senile cretin, he's sitting above his throne of gold, doesn't have the energy to defend Europe. And of course, it's like Scientology. Over time, you've got to be corrupt to get to the top. So you get these wizened old losers who, sit on their throne of gold in very pleasant conditions. Whereas, people in northern towns, have this happen to them. The Pope could evacuate them, improve their housing conditions, all kinds of stuff. We could devote family resources as well to do so if there was a path to do so. But again, having any kind of connection between us and Birmingham appears to be impossible, including between us and the Vatican. The current situation is totally indefensible. So it's only really the Protestants that can do it. Once you're free of him, you're free of thinking like him. So you can say, okay, well, the owl, I'm afraid, is clearly with us. Would an artillery strike be suitable? Could it be said that if you look up to the heavens, would God sanction this? Where you think, yeah, come on. If it's gone and turned into effectively sort of a murder factory via debased currency in a Diogenes-like sense, then Diogenes speaks to the dogs. Alexander turns up. But Alexander does have artillery, and these minute stuff like what's the artillery elevation, what shells are we using, what buildings are we blowing apart, who gets killed, are his affair. I can't be bothered with any kind of that stuff. I've already thought about it, mate. I'm absolutely knackered. I just want to hug a dog because thinking like this is pretty tiring. I mean, you're sitting in the barrel on the street, people could just attack you, you know, you have to sort of wander off and try and find food occasionally, and you know, you've got plenty of money, it's not hard to find money. You say, can I get 20 quid to finish ball? Someone will probably give it to you because I've got plenty of money, that's fine. But you know, when you're free thinking, you don't have time to command an army. But Alexander had found himself at the top of an army. He was thinking, oh, fuck, I need a free thinker to give me ideas the enemy hasn't got. So when Alexander and Diogenes look at each other saying, yeah, fair enough, mate, mutual respect. Through his history, you have the same. If you're anyway sensible, you have exactly the same respect. So when it does come down to, you know, look, either kill me or I'll just sort of wander around and live with the dog about. I don't give a shit. They follow the chain of history from then on. You're not going to have to deal with them really. And when the public body is set up for men like that to be listened to by serious people, you don't want to be Diane Jones or David Fern, these kind of low-level crooks. So learning about postmodernism is appropriate and good. So read Cynical Theories, basically the Rosetta Stone of the bullshit. You know, really good to have that in 2020. It was effectively the Enigma code, I think, for the British. If you were intelligent, throwing that kind of stuff into your neural net was effectively like playing the backslang game, and you can tear apart documents quite quickly now, 5 years on. But this is why the British will come back. Our opponents are so low grade that just people who come out of the soil will pop up, and when you can make the comparison with the Finns, if it does go to kinetic warfare, I can assure you the will to just murder these people is quite acute, and from experience they're extraordinarily cowardly. They're just right about the fox and lion dynamic. They're all incredibly cowardly, spineless bureaucrats. Some of the men who are being ordered about by these people can snap them in half. One of these guys went to get a fortified chair because of his weight, because he was, you know, autodidactically looking after himself. He knew I'm sure he had no security. But to do the job, you had to be that kind of person, otherwise you couldn't survive. It was never about the money, it was about, you know, working in that kind of environment. But in just the illegal work inference stuff is so sedate compared to that, but it's where the real aggression, of course, lies. So they can laugh at Prussian dolls all they like, but when you are catching the sort of Potemkin village-like stuff, and you can go, well, okay, let's freeze frame, do a sort of Voigt-Kampf-Beckert stuff. There's the image of me in Birmingham University with, I think, the back of my head showing or something. But you can say, well, I'm sitting on the table with Carl Jung's psychological types, with the brain now working. You can go Voigt-Kampf, deep. Here's the conversations with the guys at the table. Here's trying to set up, you know, white goods change tenants, that kind of stuff. Can we follow that through? All this kind of real world stuff. Can we follow up? You know, there's so much. It's more Fifth Element if you want to have a nostalgic film to enjoy, and have a feel good moment while you have a play with Munster Council servers. But think about this as kind of live action drone environment for the British. So as you call, like, mustering. So I'm your longbow sergeant. I don't care if your bones hurt. I don't care if you're buried with your limbs showing pockmarks in them, as you valiantly defended the country. Go and be a drone warfare pilot in Birmingham. Go and find these people. Go and find them physically. Stick a camera in their face and go into account for their actions. We'll turn Birmingham into an anti-postmodernist intersectionality test lab. And Palvini can beat me as the Black Baron or something versus Drone Biggles if he wants to have fun. There is no reason why anyone can't do this, because following Christian ethics is look up, are you just? So your drones will have no weapons, there's just cameras, idiots. You can buy commercial drones, of course, totally legally and doing this kind of stuff. Bull Street is proximal, linked to the property network. Property network is linked to the patronage network, which is corrupt, so linked to the kleptocrats, and you can play hunt the crook to your heart's content with modern technology. The woman I was speaking to this week in professional development terms was another gold standard money penny type affair. So she was working on the Sonos headphones, which I'm the delight of. Stick them on your head, press a button, all these people vanish. So you're in a room on your own, they don't exist, and you can have candid conversations with the person who comes through and block out all this stuff. It's like sort of being in the Matrix, and you can sort of walk around them with it. It's really weird. And because of the link between the legal inferences and the brain, you're totally unencumbered. So because of the level of mental freedom, they are just hiding. So as soon as the link between witness statements and physical aggression is finally resolved, so under normal circumstances it doesn't take long, it's going to be quite an event. But for whatever happens, all I can say to anyone remaining in England is, compared to certainly Birmingham and Edinburgh, is comparatively safe, because you can disappear into the crowd.